In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears.
Welcome to the Be Wise Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Wright, where we discuss politics, news, entertainment, social media, and whatever comes to my brain. That's just how it works. Hope you guys are doing well. We had a very eventful week in the media. Of course, with all the Epstein stuff. Don't know how I feel about that. I was going to do a show about the whole Epstein thing with Bondi and Patel. Personally, even as a conservative, I think a lot of it was just posturing. I thought we looked weak. We don't need that. We have Donald Trump as the president, so we don't need the extra trolling, holding books in the air, taking pictures with social influencers. It was just kind of childish, and I'm telling you that as a conservative. And let's hope something's in those binders, because if there's not, Bondi's going to look really silly right in the beginning of her job. And if there is something in there that's going to, I don't know, change how we see Epstein, if we're going to implicate some new people, kudos to her. I doubt any of that's going to happen. A lot of the binders or information in the binders were redacted. So I don't know. I'm going down a lane that I didn't want to go down on this show. This show is about something completely different. All right. Today, we're going to talk about Joy Reid, liberal media, primarily MSNBC, may touch on a couple of the others. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you guys support the channel, like and subscribe. It's growing slowly. But what I realized about some conservative content is that it does grow slowly. Liberals have a really good stronghold on media, and it's really hard to push conservative media through. I look at creators like Jason Whitlock, for instance. He should have millions of followers, and he doesn't. He only has like 500,000. That's why you don't see, you have to have, I guess, some type of legacy, some long-term support, like a Glenn Beck. Candace Owens does investigative reporting, like she did the series on Macron. Now she's doing one on Harvey Weinstein. So she sprinkles in, she did the, I forgot her name, the actor and actress, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But she sprinkles in entertainment with her politics. And I think she's trying to move away from politics because she's just gotten too much flack from it. So conservative social content is really, really difficult to gain traction. So please press that button, like and subscribe, and I appreciate you. So as usual, I like to start my podcast with something I call the Igniter. And the Igniter basically just gives you some background about my feelings of what's going on regarding the topic that we're going to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Igniter. All right, so today my Igniter is about free speech. Being able to say and report and talk about whatever you want, whether it's at work, home, media, around friends, et cetera, et cetera. And this ties into the whole Joy Reid thing, because I can appreciate Joy Reid wanting to be open and honest about her feelings on any issue, on any topic. But at the same time, freedom of speech comes with a consequence. I myself had to make really tough decisions about free speech. There was a time that I would rant and wax poetic about conservative views on social media. And I worked in corporate America. And I've had people tell me, like HR or owners of companies, come to me and go, I need you to tone down the rhetoric on social media. There's people that's come to me and said, I wish I could speak as freely as you do, Chris, because I get fired at my place of employment. There's people that's been escorted out of the buildings at work because they said something on social media. They can't speak freely. So there is freedom of speech in America, but there's not, freedom of how you're reacted to. Your employer has every right to fire you because they no longer can risk your rhetoric affecting their business. I've had a few sit downs with people when I worked in corporate America, even when I had side hustles, because right now I'm self-employed. So the only risk I take is my own business and maybe the people that work around me who says, I don't want to use your broker because of your views. And that's okay, because I do know there's millions and millions of people who can be prospective clients of mine who think and feel like I do. So if someone is on the other side of that and they don't want to do business with me, that's a chance I have to take. But the thing about freedom of speech and having the freedom to express yourself and be open, it's freeing. It's you feel free. It's like you have wings. Like you can fly. You can say whatever you want, and no one can tell you not to, and you don't have to worry about the consequences because they're the consequences that you're accepting. You're embracing them. That I would much rather be able to speak freely and be authentic and be who I am without consequence from other people, being escorted out the door and packing my file box with my coffee mugs and things on my desk, taking the perp walk out of some employer. So to Joy Reid's case, yes, she was fired. She was fired, but I'm not a fan of hers. And I don't like her news. I don't like her reporting. I don't like her rhetoric, but she had the right to do it. But she also had the right to be fired. So as you're going to see later in this podcast, her crying and being all upset and in her feelings about my show had value, then do like other people do who's been fired from networks. Do like Don Lemon did. Don Lemon, who left CNN with millions of dollars in his pocket. He had a golden parachute. He's doing a podcast now. Stephen A. Smith said that he started a podcast because he never wanted to be fired from ESPN and not have something to fall back on. When Shannon Sharpe left Fox Sports, he created Club Shay Shay, a podcast. And on these podcasts, you own them so you can speak freely without consequence. Because the people that like your content and a few people that don't like you or your content will still come to your show. So many people. Candace Owens was fired from the Daily Wire. And now she has almost 4 million subscribers on her YouTube channel. Stephen A. Smith just surpassed 1 million. Shannon Sharpe has God knows how many million since the Cat Williams podcast. But the great part about it is that they can speak freely. So, Joy Reid, don't cry. Go do your racist rants on your podcast. You will have millions of other racists following you. I promise you. You will have no problem getting subscribers. You're going to get so many views from those who love you and those who hate you. I heard something in church today. In a 35-minute sermon, this resonated with me. That if you live for the public's approval, you will die from their criticism. Let me say it again. Hallelujah. If you live for public approval, you will die from their criticism. The approval from a higher spirit, an approval from God, is greater than the approval from critics and people. That's the Igniter. Let's get into our show. So Joy Reid was fired. And for me, I thought she should have been fired years ago. You know me, you watch my show, you know I always root for a post-racial society in America. Regardless of how harrowing it seems like it can be, people tell me that's a pipe dream, it'll never happen. And I still think that there's a possibility that it can. And the sentiment about Joy Reid being fired, you had one group who, mostly liberals, not just Black liberals, liberals across the board, was very, very saddened. They thought it was racism, where there was no proof of racism. Let me tell you something. This was about MSNBC hiring a new chief, coming in and saying, this is not who we want to be anymore. We're going in a new direction, and Joy Reid does not represent that direction. Now, we don't know if Joy Reid was called into an office and say, hey, we're going in a new direction, and based on some of your past commentary, we're going to ask you to either switch it up. We're not going to allow any more of that. You will be terminated if you continue down that path. Would you like to stay on with NBC and follow the new format? Was she offered that opportunity? I don't know. I can see it as a viable conversation. But if she wasn't offered that, it was just NBC going, listen, we've had enough. We've supported you. We've backed you. And I don't think there's a place for you with going forward in our new direction. Okay. I think that Joy Reid should have said, I understand. There's other places that I can go where my style of commentary, my thought process will be accepted and appreciated. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Pay me. Bye. But instead, she took the woe is me, I'm a victim, cry me a river route. Of course, because this is what they do. It's always someone else's fault. It's always racism. It's always victimhood. It's always institutionalized, premeditated racism. It's always about a violation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They can't proudly just leave. Okay? I loved the way Candace Owens left the Daily Wire. She said, I can't talk about it, nor do I want to talk about it. I was sad, but it's okay. I'm going to come out the other side better, fresher, and more engaging and free. That's what you should do. But the people on my side of thought, there was a TikToker, his name's Rob Smith, very prominent guy, has a lot of followers. He said it better than I could ever say it. Take a look.
My show had value, and that that what I was doing had value.
Joy Reid, your show had no value. It was trash. It was propaganda. And it was one of the most damaging things to the unity of America that I have ever seen. There was not one single scam over the past 5 to 7 years that you have not foisted on the American public. You foisted the BLM scam on the American public. You foisted the Russian collusion delusion collusion delusion on the American public. You foisted the January 6th basically lie and propaganda on the American public. You pushed the COVID propaganda on the American public. And so now that you have outlived your usefulness as an effective propaganda tool for the corporate masters that you serve, they have gotten rid of you, which is what happens. I hope that you are happy and feel good about yourself for basically denigrating Black Republicans, for crapping all over Black Republicans like Byron Donalds, Black Republicans like Tim Scott, Black Republicans like me. Black Republicans, you did nothing but smear, denigrate, and bully all of us because we did not fall in line with that agenda. So your tears are delicious. I care nothing about these tears because you are a liar, you are a racist, and you are a propagandist, and I'm glad your show is gone.
That's how I feel. That is how I feel. Like, she never tried to create a bridge for Black Republicans and Black Democrats. Like, if you're so concerned about Black this and Black that and unity and coming together, all you did was denigrate Black Republicans and Black conservatives across the board. When Byron Donalds came on your show, all you went on was about a little comment he had made about Black morality during Jim Crow, about Black family values during Jim Crow. You knew exactly what he meant, but you wanted to create some narrative, some scenario that it meant something totally different. But guys, go back and look at it. Byron Donalds, just Google Byron Donalds Jim Crow, and you will see exactly what he said. There are receipts. All he was saying is compare the Black community, the Black family today with the Black family when we were actually oppressed, when we were actually victims of Jim Crow and slavery. We were a tighter knit group. We had family values. We were closer as a community. We built businesses. Segregation caused us to be independent. And then you, Joy Reid, took all of that and made it, you're an Uncle Tom, and you think we should be back in Jim Crow. You want to take us back and say, oh, well, then after he explained it, she ends with, you might not want to talk about Jim Crow anymore. You fool. You fool. Of course, there's always the white liberal Karen savior. If there was a picture of the white liberal savior, it would be a picture of Rachel Maddow. Right there in the dictionary. Mommy, what's a white liberal savior? Oh, right here. There's a lot of hypocrisy to that. A lot of hypocrisy. Let's look at the privileged, the very highly privileged, the very well-paid Rachel Maddow cry because her colleague. I also want to tell you that Rachel Maddow had made $30 million a year with MSNBC. In 2024, beginning of 2024 into 2023, she took a $5 million pay cut. So she still made $25 million a year. I had no idea. You know how much Joy Reid made? 3. So as Rachel Maddow goes on about how it's criminal, it's an abomination that MSNBC would get rid of Joy Reid because Joy Reid means so much to her. Hey, Rachel, why don't you say, hey, MSNBC, I tell you what, don't fire her. I'll pay her. Because Joy Reid only got a salary of $3 million a year. I heard it was even cut down as far as 1.5 just to keep her on when they told her we're going to let you go before. And she said, no, I want to stay. Okay, then you got to take a pay cut. I don't know that to be true. I just heard that out in the ether that she took a pay cut. I don't know, but I know her net worth is about $4 million, and her liberal tears, or white liberal tears, which is Rachel Maddow, makes $25 million. What's that? 8 times more? Here's Rachel.
Hour all the other nights except for Mondays. So that's a big change. An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got count them, two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad.
I want to say something. Katie Fang, Alex Wagner, both people of color, POCs, as they call them, BIPOCs. They weren't asked to leave the network. They're just moving their shows around. So once again, the white liberal savior, she's upset about that too. These two ladies took the option of like, hey, you can leave the network. We understand if you're disappointed, but we're just going to move some stuff around and you're going to be on this night and you're going to be on this time slot and blah, 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 blah. But you're going to lose your show because, again, we're going in a different direction. So let's continue.
No matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it. But there's just one other piece of it that you should know. From your side of the TV screen, you will mostly see changes in terms of who's in the anchor chair. And actually, everybody who's going to be in anchor chairs from here on out are great colleagues and great at what they do, and you are not going to be disappointed in who's on our air and what you're going to be seeing. But one thing you cannot necessarily see is that the people who get our shows on the air, they're really being put through the ringer. Dozens of producers and staffers, including some who are among the most experienced and most talented and most specialist producers in the building, are facing being laid off. They're being invited to reapply for new jobs. That has never happened at this scale in this way before when it comes to programming changes, presumably because it's not the right way to treat people and it's inefficient and it's unnecessary. And it kind of drops the bottom out of whether or not people feel like this is a good place to work. And so we don't generally do things that way.
So you just blasted your whole company. You're saying that you have an unethical, horrible place to work, yet you're here. These producers, I don't know what kind of money they make. They don't make a lot, 40, 50,000 a year. So you, with just taking another maybe $2 million pay cut, could not only pay them all, you could take a $1 million pay cut, make your salary $25 million down to $24, and then just pay all these producers who may be losing your job. Tell NBC, don't fire them. I got it. I got you. Don't, guys, keep your jobs. Sound engineers, grip guys, camera guys, producers. You now work for Maddow Productions. NBC, it's going to be called Maddow Productions. I'm going to pay them all since you're crying for them.
Maybe all of our folks, including most of the people who are getting this very show on the air right now, maybe they will all get new jobs here, and I hope they do. But in the meantime, being put in this kind of limbo, the anxiety and the discombobulation is off the charts at a time when this job already is extra stressful and difficult.
Sorry, I keep stopping because she keeps bringing my things to mind. When I used to work in the pharmaceutical sales field, you would get notice that your company was sold months ahead of the time it was actually going to happen. Like if your company was up for sale and another company, was going to acquire them in 3 months, you knew that, let's say in January. But the actual acquisition may not happen till March, April, May. So you already knew that your job may be in jeopardy. And so you hung in limbo. I'm sure this is not the only place that this has ever happened. These kind of things happen when you work for corporate America. Expect it. It's going to happen. So I think sometimes multimillionaires feel special. You're not special, Rachel.
It is not news for me to tell you that the press and freedom of the press are under attack in a way that is really, it's a big deal for our country. It's very visceral for us here. I know that the business of the press is not an easy thing, and I know that no job is forever. But I think I'm safe in saying for all of us anchors who through the TV, please know that what pains us the most is not what happens to us. It is what happens to our coworkers on whom we depend and who.
Then pay them. For me, this is simple. If it pains you so much that you may be losing some of your coworkers, then pay them or restructure your contract. Say, hey, what's the deal? Why do we have to fire these people? We really need to cut down. Ratings are down. Advertisers are down. We're just not making the money we were making. We need to do some cuts somewhere. We need to doge this thing. Right. So go ahead and say, how about this? How about I take a $1 million pay cut and then we can pay the staff. Would you do that? Absolutely.
You don't necessarily know, but we respect and love them and depend on them. And did I mention we respect them? This is a difficult time in the news business, but it does not need to be this difficult. We welcome new voices to this place and some familiar voices to new hours. It's going to be great, honestly, and we want to grow and succeed and reach more people than ever and be resilient and stay here forever. I also believe, and I bet you believe, that the way to get there is by treating people well. Finding good people, good colleagues, doing good work with them, and then having their back. That we could do a lot better on.
What are good people? People who think like you. Finding good people, keeping good people. And you know what's funny though, is that she's here crying her eyes out for Joy Reid, but this is Joy Reid's sentiment about her.
America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like, Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too. And it has the same effect. Even as the right tries to politicize the idea that masculinity is being robbed from American men by multiculturalism and wokeism, they still want to be able to have their tears.
Yeah. But she didn't really specify whose tears. She just called them white tears. Well, Maddow just had white tears. So the other thing is like, why are we all sick of Joy Reid? We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get out of here. But I just wanted to show you some of her really cringiest moments that even Black people like myself thought, there's no place for this. There's no place for this. Take a look.
The very next year, she was forced to address a series of decade-old posts on her personal blog, The Reid Report, in which she expressed disgust about men kissing and gay marriage. She initially claimed she had been hacked, but finally apologized a year later in June 2018. MSNBC stood by her side throughout the ordeal.
I genuinely do not believe I wrote those hateful things because they are completely alien to me. But I can definitely understand, based on things I have tweeted and have written in the past, why some people don't believe me.
The scandal marked the beginning of a rocky tenure at MSNBC, with the host racking up a series of cringe-inducing on-air controversies. In 2020, Reid mocked police officers who declined to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
So for putting Americans in danger, officers and unions who are fighting against vaccine mandates, which essentially means fighting to make the public sick, are tonight's absolute worst.
In 2022, she compared Floridians fleeing the Sunshine State in the wake of Hurricane Ian to waves of illegal immigrants crossing the U.S. border.
Be careful about attacking people who have to move to save their own lives and safety, because you never know when it's your people that have to move, when it's your people who have to migrate, when it's your people who have to get on that road.
And in 2024, claimed that Republicans were voting based on, quote, racial animus.
They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want. A black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges.
In the lead up to Donald Trump's second term in the White House, Reid condemned the white Christians who supported him in the Iowa caucuses, claiming they want non-whites to bow down to them.
None of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American.
Later that year, she claimed on TikTok that black people would look real weird for not voting for former Vice President Kamala Harris in the November election.
You're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color. But really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture.
And she argued that Harris voters should avoid Thanksgiving dinner with their Trump voting relatives.
Well, here's an alternative thought. Make your own dinner, MAGA. Make your own sandwiches. Wipe your own tears. Troll amongst yourselves with Elon and leave us alone.
In December, Nielsen Media Research revealed that Reid, who earned a lofty $3 million annual salary, had lost almost half her viewers since the election, with MSNBC as a whole seeing a whopping 53% drop in primetime viewership following the November 5th outcome. After network president Rashida Jones left MSNBC in January 2025, Rebecca Cutler was tapped to helm the struggling network.
I just want to say Rebecca Cutler was formerly at CNN. So my thoughts are when she said we're going to change the direction of MSNBC, it's going to be MSNBC Light, which is going to be more like CNN, I bet. Because there's no way she's not going to make it right wing. She's not going to make it a conservative network, but she's probably thinking we need to be more like CNN. So I'm going to take my 20 years experience from CNN and bring it to MSNBC and get rid of Joy Reid, get rid of some of the, the brown people. They're not even brown. Some of them are just so light you don't know what they are. Anyway, you move them from one segment to another and figure out if we can be closer to what CNN looks like. You know what I mean? So that's Miss Cutler. Check her out.
Where ratings have consistently trailed behind Fox News. Roughly a month later, Reid's show was canceled. President Donald Trump wasted no time reveling in the news, claiming on his Truth Social platform that MSNBC should pay vast sums of money for the unpardonable sin it has done to the country. He has also openly celebrated Reid's firing, describing her as one of the least talented people in television and as a mentally obnoxious racist. MSNBC's 7 p.m. time slot, previously hosted by Reid, will be replaced by a new panel show featuring co-hosts Alicia Menendez, Michael Steele, and Simone Sanders Townsend.
I just wanted to point out that you have all these people who saying that Joy Reid being let it go was racist. Oddly enough, they replaced her show with a panel of 3 people who are all people of color. And there's 2 women. So I think that covered the full spectrum of diversity and inclusion. What do you think? So, no. So I guess I'm going to end this by saying, don't cry for Joy Reid. If you're out there and you're watching and you happen to be on the other side of the aisle, don't cry for Joy Reid, because Joy Reid, she's a Harvard graduate. She's written 3 books. So she has talent to do something. It's just not talent that is digestible to many of us. She made over $3 million a year, net worth of over $4 million. Her husband, his net worth is like $10 million. She's okay. You know, if you're sitting at a regular job making less than $50,000 and you're on your phone on TikTok crying for Joy Reid, then you have a problem. All right. No one needs to cry for Joy Reid. She made her bed. There are consequences to freedom of speech. That's what happens, man. That's what happens. You guys take care. I'll see you on the other side. Come back for the Be Wise podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Support the channel. Support conservative radio. Support conservative podcast content, TikTok and YouTube. Talk to you guys later.